And welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I wanted to talk light guns. I've been really getting into them recently, mostly on my Wii, and I'm going to do a separate video about that. But I realized I've actually used this light gun for my PlayStation 1 in a couple of different videos, and I thought I haven't actually gone into detail about this gun itself, where I got it from and any of its special features. It's a really good light gun. So I thought, yeah, I'm actually going to do that now. And this is rather timely because a week or two ago, if you've ever listened to the Giant Bomb podcast, in their email section, somebody had asked them a question about what's the history of light guns, and they had a very lengthy discussion about light guns of different eras, and the Gun Con, specifically for the PlayStation 1, came up quite a few times in their chat, and I thought, hey, that's right, I've got this thing. I should talk about this one. So I'm doing so now. What is this gun? Now, this is the tricky part. Here it is here. On the side of it, it just says it's the Real Arcade, and that's a rather odd, what would you call it, a strange brand. It is a gun con, and it's also a justifier, which I'm going to get to later on. But where I got it was actually at the 2013 Portland Retro Gaming Convention, or Retro Expo. And I got it in, this is the box that it came in. Let's see if I can show that off properly. So there it is. This is the Innovation Jolt gun, compatible with PlayStation and Saturn. And it's got a foot pedal, and it's really, really nice. Now, this one does not say, oh wait, it does, yes. And it's hard to make it out, but in right here, it does say the Real Arcade trademark. So that's who makes it, Innovation Extreme. And what I really like about it is the PlayStation 1 initially had Justifier from Konami as its kind of main design of light gun. I don't know all of the details of that, but I know that, for example, all the Justifier games, or games that work with the Justifier light gun, don't use the foot pedal, and I'm going to talk about the foot pedal in a second. And then later, a second model or a second type of light gun came out for the PlayStation, which was the Gun Con, and that added this foot pedal functionality. So some games are compatible with both. You can play certain games with both the Justifier or the Gun Con. For example, I got that Elemental Gearbolt in last year's Portland Retro Gaming Expo. That one does work with either gun, so that's good. And I got a couple of others, and I'm going to review each of those later. But there are some games that only work with one or the other. For example, Die Hard Trilogy, the second game, which is based on the second Die Hard movie, is a light gun shooting game, and it only works with the Justifier. Does not work with a Gun Con. I have other games like Time Crisis, for example, which is actually mentioned on the front of the box there. Time Crisis. That one only works with the Gun Con. It does not work with the Justifier. Luckily, this gun works with both because it actually has a switch here. You can be in Nor Gun mode, which is basically the Justifier mode, or you can be in Gun Con mode, and you can play Gun Con games. So that's one thing that's already in its favor. You can use this for either or. Also, it has a switch here, so you can program what happens. Like, you can make it do automatic loading, or you can have it set so that pulling the trigger once will fire 6 times, that kind of thing. So you can do like a rapid shot if you wanted. I've never really messed with that, though, because some games I have use machine guns, some games use like laser guns, and some games use 6-shooters, and I don't really want to get into having different reactions depending on what way I program this thing. So I just leave it in normal mode myself. But it's nice that it has that feature. It actually kicks when it fires, and I'm going to show you that in a second too. So it really feels like a real gun. You've got a start or B button here, and you've also got a secondary A button there. That's something the Justifier doesn't have. It only has a single action button. Another interesting thing is when this came in the box with the foot pedal, there wasn't actually a cord for it. So I was a little bit concerned that this wasn't going to operate properly. but when I got it, it was just like that. It's a little bit dusty. Apologies for that. But then I noticed, well, wait a second, that looks just like a telephone wire. So I had one of my buddies at work who works in the telephone group say, hey, have you got like a regular telephone cable that I can just use? And he said, yeah, sure. So he gave it to me and plugged it in there, and the other end goes in there. And it works great. It might actually be reversed in polarity, and I'm going to show you that when I do the Time Crisis gameplay. But anyway, I just thought, well, that's a nice little workaround. At least I've got a wire that can plug in. It is worth noting there are a total of 3 different wires that go into the bottom of the gun here. One is the actual game controller part, which plugs in there into the PlayStation 1, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Second one is for the foot pedal, so that it knows you've hit that. This one is interesting. This, and it has a little extension here, this actually powers the gun. So when you pull the trigger, that bolt action actually fires. Like there's a little hydraulic-y or a solenoid kind of reaction in there. It actually kicks back. It's an amazing feeling. I do confess I don't actually end up using it very often because it can be distracting. Most of the time I actually play it unplugged, but for the purpose of this video, I will leave it plugged in so you can show you what it looks like. The other thing about this connection into the PlayStation is I think the designers had it in mind that your PlayStation is going to be sitting as part of your wall unit or whatever, and this cable that links to here is like, 6 feet long or so, as it would be. Unfortunately, the way I play, I've actually got my PlayStation sitting with me here on the couch and then run everything over to the television. So it's not easy for me to show you here what the problem is with that setup. I'm going to have to show you in a minute, but I had to jury rig a weird kind of an extension cable so that this would work because, again, most of the length from the gun to the PlayStation is in this connection here, and since my PlayStation is actually much farther from my TV than this arrangement had in mind with this cable, I had to make an extension cord, and to make that work properly is going to take some explaining. So I'll do that in a minute. But yeah, this is my light gun. It's really, really nice, and again, it's from Innovation Extreme. It's called the Jolt gun, and that's why it's called the Jolt gun. You pull that trigger, and that thing does kick back. Oh, and one final thing, you'll notice that my PlayStation 1 doesn't actually have its little LCD screen plugged in. Normally I'm playing it like that with maybe the lid turned down, but light guns need a CRT in order to work, and I find that even though this does display here and also on the CRT, anytime I'm doing light gun games, I think this disrupts it. So I find that if I'm doing any light gun games, I do need to actually disconnect the LCD screen and keep it somewhere else. Not sure what else to say about it here, so let's, let me swing the camera around and I'll show you about that extension cable problem, and also, we'll get onto some gameplay. I'm going to have to do this handheld here because there's no easy way to describe this. You may have often wondered, what is that crazy spaghetti junction of wires on the front of the TV? That's for the PlayStation to work. And specifically, I've got this weird yellow connector doing what it's doing because of the light gun. But before I get there, let's just show you. So essentially, imagine that this PlayStation is over on the couch with me, and I've got the gun in my hand. And here is the cable that does the video, and it goes up front like so. Normally, as you know, you would have like yellow, white, and red, your video and your audio tracks. But what I've had to do is this strange splitting of my yellow wire. The reason for that is this wire here. What is this wire for? This is actually to extend the gun con. Let me show you where the other end of this goes to. Now the other end of that cable is right here, and this is a custom connector that the gun con functionality of this particular gun uses. You see, it's hard to explain, but basically the GunCon technology, which is better than the Justifier, uses your video signal input on the front of your TV to make the gun more accurate. And that's great. You just plug your yellow connector in with your audio left and right. And there's a little thing back here for the other end of that cable. But unfortunately, the wire for that is maybe 2 feet long. I mean, there's the front of the PlayStation where the connection goes in. Like, that's the actual plug for player one. And here's the entire length of the wire. And that's it. That's all I have to go with for this GunCon specific video signal input. So, it's great that it gives me more accuracy. I really like that. I don't like the fact that I'm sitting way over here and my connection that this thing needs to go into is way over there. So what I did was I split the input on there. It looks like a bit of a dog's breakfast, but at least the other end of it can allow me to sit this thing on the couch, if that makes sense. All right, so that's the wiring taken care of, and that explains why my screen has always got these like multiple connections all just hanging off the front of it there. Let's actually show you the game in action, or the gun in action. This is Die Hard that we've got playing here, but actually what I'm going to do is switch to showing you Time Crisis, because that actually uses that pedal, and I need to show you, since we're on the subject of wiring, I think maybe this wire might not work properly, and I can only do that using Time Crisis. Okay, so I've got Time Crisis loaded up here. Now, apologies that I'm really close to the screen, but it's the only way to both show you the gameplay and also show you how the gun works. But it does work from a nice distance away. As I mentioned, I've actually plugged in the power to this thing, so when I pull the trigger, I mean, you can see that, but the top of the gun does kick back. It's a great feeling. Bit distracting in the game and also very noisy, so apologies for this Time Crisis gameplay. You're going to hear that a lot. Anyway, let's give this a go here, and I've got my foot on the pedal as well, and I'll cut to that interspersed with some of this gameplay here. Just go with the story mode. Here we go.
Action!
The recoil really feels nice. The fact that the gun does that, it really makes you feel like you're there. It's just very noisy and also very distracting from gameplay. And you use the foot pedal to duck down, and that actually also acts as a reload. At least in this game. Other games have different ways of using the foot pedal. Yeah, this feels fantastic. Very accurate. Just a really, really great way to play the game. Now, the second area is always kind of cool. I like the way they mix it up here.
Action! Danger!
Duck from the hook. Uh-oh. Well, he was tricky. Now, I mentioned the foot pedal polarity might be reversed, because I find I have to let go of the foot pedal to reload and then push the pedal to go back up. And without having a proper wire, I don't know if that's correct or not.
Action!
Okay, so that's Time Crisis in a nutshell. Let me switch to another game here.
Action.
Alright, now I've loaded up Hard Trilogy and figured let's give it a try here. I've switched to Justifier mode away from GunCon mode. Again, if I'm in GunCon mode, it doesn't get recognized. Switch to the Justifier mode. Now we can play. And I've unplugged the power because that noise of the thing kicking back was a little distracting there. This game may be a bit of an eyesore, but man, it's a lot of fun for the light gun functionality. I play this one, I think, the most.
Not my day.
Alright, now I got a Beretta. And now I got an MP5. With tracer bullets. This one may not use the foot pedal, but it does use the back, the button that's on the back here to fire a grenade. Like that. The weird thing is it describes this weapon as a shotgun, but it's an explosive shotgun, and it really just kind of fires grenades, really. Alright, that's Hard Trilogy, the second game, which is all light gun. Fantastic. There's one more game I'd like to show you because it's kind of a hidden feature of... it requires a Justifier type of gun, but it's not a well-advertised feature of the game. Now I'm going to have to talk over this, but yes indeed, I am in fact playing Star Wars Rebel Assault 2. This does have gun functionality in the bits where you're going down the halls with the stormtroopers. I really don't mind talking over the acting because it's pretty poor, so that's okay. But obviously with the music and stuff, I've turned it off during the actual fight sequences. Anyway, let's get on with this mission here. For this, you need to put the gun into the player 2 position. You still use your standard controller for in port number 1, but if you have a gun plugged into player 2, you can actually use it for the gun sequences. Now, it's a little weird. You don't use either of these buttons, even though you're supposed to jump for cover. I find if I shoot close to the screen, it gets the guy to move out from cover, and then I can shoot normally. It's hard to describe. Let me just show you what I mean. Alright, so here we go. Our rebel pilot is about to head in for some trouble. There we go. Okay, I've got the music off. Now if I lean toward the screen and pull the trigger, it brings them out. And then as you can see, I can actually fire at these stormtroopers. And then if I pull back and pull the trigger, it kind of puts them back into cover. It's a bit of a strange interface, but it totally works. Here we go with the second level. It takes a little getting used to. It's not an easy interface, but it does work. Okay, here we come into the final level. It's pretty good fun. It's a great little Star Wars. I mean, this isn't the greatest game in the world, but I kind of like this shooting gallery element using this gun. So it's a lot of fun, and I really like this. I'm very, very pleased with this. Oh dear, we died. Oh well. Okay. So my final thoughts on this gun. It is the Innovation Extreme Jolt gun. Really good. I'm very, very happy with this thing. Complaints, it's a little heavy. I mean, after a while, you're kind of like, you've seen me using both hands to fire this gun. It can be pretty draining after a while, but that's minor compared to the fact that it'll do both gun con and Justifier games with a flick of a switch. I do like that power feature where you can get the thing to kick back. That's cute and fun and stuff. And it's very, very accurate. I'm going to do another video where I compare this, the accuracy on this to the Justifier, because I have one of those as well. But I just thought I'd give this thing a proper review. Really, really like it, and highly recommend if you can find it anywhere. It's great for the PlayStation for light gun games. Oh dear, it looks like our rebel pilot is in a bit of trouble. Maybe I should go back and help him. Okay, so I'm going to continue to play the game, but until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.